Welcome to Political Beatdown. I'm Ben Meiselas, joined by Michael Cohen. Let's just start where I think Michael Cohen would like I start every show. Okay, Michael Cohen was right. Remember when Michael Cohen told everybody one of the first things that Donald Trump is going to do is go after the oligarchs and the billionaires and take their companies? That's exactly what he's doing. And he will send a social media post attacking private company X. Then he will harm their stock price, make them show up at the White House or DC, speak to Howard Lutnick, then seize the methods of their production and their control and take it over. And now they're going to be rolling that out to private companies across the United States. You have that happening at the same time Donald Trump fired an independent governor from the Federal Reserve, Lisa Cook, which has never happened in the Federal Reserve's 100-plus year history, because Donald Trump wants to be personally in control of the interest rates, of monetary and fiscal policy, of central banking, which of course is horrifically dangerous given Donald Trump's background of bankrupting most things that he touches. And there's a reason why the central bank is independent in functioning democracies, because where it's not, you see inflation surging. So America can become like Zimbabwe, Argentina, or Turkey. But let's just start where I said we would start. Michael Cohen, here is Howard Lutnick, Donald Trump's Commerce Secretary, from the cabinet meeting this morning, saying that capitalism is seizing the methods of production for private companies. Here, play this clip.
Right? The Biden administration had given $11 billion to Intel, given it to them. Done. Corporate just gift. And you turn that into really, it was like less than 5 minutes of conversation. And Intel agreed to give us 10% of their company, which of course was worth $11 billion. So it's not socialism. This is capitalism.
That's not capitalism.
Well, let me show you this other one. Lockheed Martin's next. Here, play this clip.
What about defense companies, though, Secretary? Why shouldn't the U.S. government say, you know what, we use Palantir services, we would like a piece of Palantir. We use Boeing services, we would like a piece of Boeing. There are a lot of businesses that do business with the U.S. government, that benefit by doing business with the U.S. government. I guess the question is, where's the line?
There's a monstrous discussion about defense. I mean, Lockheed Martin makes 97% of their revenue from the U.S. government. They are basically an arm of the U.S. government. They make exquisite munitions. I mean, amazing things that can knock a missile out of the air when it's coming towards you. But what's the economics of that? I'm going to leave that to my Secretary of Defense and the Deputy Secretary of Defense. These guys are on it and they're thinking about it. But I tell you what, there's a lot of talking that needs to be had about how do we finance our munitions acquisitions. I think a lot of that is talking. And now you have the right people in the jobs and Donald Trump at the head thinking about what is the right way to do it. I tell you, the way it has been done has been a giveaway.
The hell? Time out. Time out. Secretary of Commerce? Seriously? Lockheed Martin is a arm of the United States government because they are a contractor that provides things like aircrafts, as does Boeing, as does Korean Aerospace, that provides parts and stuff like that. What the hell is he talking about? Let me ask you a question. If they're going to start going after every single company that has any contract or any connection whatsoever to the United States government, what about Cantor Fitzgerald, his company that turns around there with their eSpeed that does bond swaps and so on? In fact, all of the bond swaps come off of United States bonds. So therefore, why not give up 10% of eSpeed, of Cantor Fitzgerald? I mean, these idiots are so fast to blow smoke up Trump's ass when it comes to this. Could you imagine what he's saying? That this is capitalism? This isn't capitalism. This is following what Vladimir Putin did, but somewhat differently. You may remember going back into like the year 2000 when they had what's called privatization certificates, when Russia ended up privatizing all of the companies. Yes, those companies belonged initially to the Russian government. And when they sold them, they didn't take 25% or 10%. They kept 25% of the privatization certificates, which is different. I'm still trying to figure out, like with Intel, how did the company itself, a publicly traded company, rationalize to shareholders that are paying hundreds of dollars per share that they just gave away X number of shares to the United States government? I don't know how the board of trustees, the board of directors, how they rationalized it to their stockholders. I don't get it. I'm so confused.
Donald Trump sends a nasty post about Intel and the CEO. The CEO shows up, meets with Howard Lutnick, meets with, other Trump representatives. They cut this deal. To your point, what happens to shareholders? What happens to, this overall system? And it also, in terms of Intel, the utter capitulation, what precedent that sets when the United States government now says, oh, I like that. Now I'm going to go after this company, this company, this company, this company, this company. And Intel, with a proud history as an American company, now has in my view, a present and future of shame. And here's the thing too. This is why Trump wants to get rid of museums. Believe it or not, Cohen and Brigaders, museums don't predict the future. So museums are not forward-looking unless it's a futuristic museum, but museums tell the story of the past. And we know that if we don't learn the lessons of history, history repeats itself. So it doesn't take a genius to know where this goes inevitably, because we've seen it before in countries. This leads to massive Great Depressions.
So let me ask you this, right? Let's just use instead Lockheed Martin. And as we all know, Lockheed Martin is a producer, for example, of the Raptor aircrafts and so on. Well, what if hypothetically the CEO, as he's sitting down with Nutlick, turns around and says, yeah, thank you for your offer, but why don't you go fuck yourself? That's what I would say if I was the CEO. No, seriously. Why don't you go into one of those little rooms over there, and why don't you go fuck yourself? I'm not giving you 1 cent. I'm not giving you 1%. I'm not giving you 10%. Oh, I have an idea. You want to cancel the fucking contracts? Sure. Now, why don't you let me know who's going to go build your fucking Raptors? Who's going to go build your aircraft? Seriously? At what point in time do you turn around? If I am the one that's doing it, you don't want to give us another contract? No problem. We'll just take our facility. We'll take our engineering. We'll take our property rights, our ownership, for example, in the design, and we'll move it off to China. We'll move it off to Canada. And you know what? We'll build our shit over there where I don't have to worry about you and your tariffs and your extortion. Why not just turn around and say that? The same thing with Intel. Who's going to now be able to duplicate what Intel uses, what Intel purchases, the government purchases from Intel? Who's going to go ahead and now what are they going to do? They're going to copy their proprietary, rights there. I don't understand why they capitulate. It makes no sense to me at all.
When it's also against their own, this isn't going to help them. This is against their interest. And the whole creep into fascism, Cohen, I've always been just wondering, and I feel like one of those last survivors in a zombie movie as the zombies are going, I'm like, why are there all these other zombies? And whatever happened to being a normal human being? This CEO of Intel, ostensibly to get that position, went to great schools, rose up through the ranks, was in power struggles with people, knew how to exert influence. And so the fact that you can't just be like, no, we're not doing that. Go tell him to go F himself. Or, you know what, Donald, you want to be the president who kills Intel? I will go and do a press conference to our shareholders and say, we stood up to you in this moment. And if they want to vote me out in this moment as the CEO to capitulate and give you a stake, let them do it. But I'm going public and I'm going to be courageous. And I'm going to stand up and say, no, this is not the way it works. And the shareholders and the market can punish me for that or not, but I'm going to do it. There are so many people, companies, universities, law firms that let this guy roll over. You know, here's a data point, Cohen, that I'll do a video about for the morning. Prime Minister Modi of India, it's been widely reported he has not returned Donald Trump's phone calls 4 times. And Trump's trying to reach him again, trying to reach him again. And Modi is saying, F that guy. You know where I'm going? I'm going to meet with Xi Jinping before I take a Donald Trump phone call. So he goes out to China, the first time doing that meeting in 7 years. And Trump called 4 times. I want you to think about how, and this doesn't get reported in American media, how pathetic is it that you, as the president of the United States, can't get your phone call now picked up from the prime minister of India? That would be unheard of in any president in the past. And what the prime minister of India is doing is, frankly, what the prime minister of Canada should be doing, and what the president of Mexico should be doing, what the head of the European Union Commission should be doing, what Keir Starmer, what I understand that America, because not of Trump, but because of our past history, is the largest economy in the world. I understand that. I understand that Trump's threats could harm other economies. I understand that. I understand that America still has the biggest military in the world because of our history, not because Trump did anything magical, but because of United States leadership in the world. But it's enough of coddling this idiot. He honestly, I mean, he exhibits the signs of dementia, and I'm not a doctor, I can't diagnose it, but he exhibits these signs. He's physically decomposing before our eyes. He can't speak in sentences. And when he does, he talks about being a dictator and how he's made DC incredible and how the restaurants were closed and now they're open, which is not true. It's actually the opposite taking place. You have him talking about Gavin Newsom and saying Newsom's very handsome, but he does weird things with his hand. Like, why are you giving Trump's whole political career, you know, just people, you know, I think about the head of Teamsters. I think about Sean O'Brien, for example. You're the head of Teamsters. Stop.
But Ben, before we get into Teamsters and all that, stay with me for a second. Put you back on the screen here. All right. People understand what Intel actually is. It is a technology company, meaning that they have certain trademark, they have certain proprietary trademark rights to CPU units, central processing units, that the United States government's computer systems run off of. Now, if in fact that the United States government can substitute it with something other than Intel, God bless. Then you bring them in and you can have a complete discussion over how much money the United States government pays to Intel for their service, for their CPU units, for their technology. But until such time, it brings me back to the point why the CEO of this company rolled over to get his belly rubbed by this administration. It makes no sense. The same thing holds true for Lockheed Martin and others. They have rights. They have patent rights on certain technology. They are the ones that are building our aircrafts, the ones that the United States, by the way, has an exclusive right to purchase, every single one. So if they buy, for example, from Lockheed Martin, If they buy, say, 150 aircrafts, that's not 150 aircrafts for the United States alone. Because of the value of the contracts, there is an agreement that only the United States can sell certain military equipment to any other country, and it has to go through the United States government. Okay, that's the trade-off. That I understand and I can accept, but I cannot accept the United States turning around and saying to a company that produces CPU units and technology that if you don't give us 10% of the company, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You're not going to buy our CPU units anymore? Go ahead. Fine. Fuck you and all your computers. All 100 million of them. Go now replace them with something else. And by the way, when those companies fail or that there's some sort of a hack into it, then you'll give us a call and we're going to be years behind. At which point in time, China will overtake you. I mean, I don't understand. Yeah. I just don't get it. I don't understand what this CEO is doing.
I'm reading a book to my 10-month-old daughter these days, and it talks about the magical powers of saying no. That's basically the premise of the book. And it's important that little children know no, and to push back.
What about Patty goes potty?
Yeah, well, we'll teach. We could teach all of it. But for having the ability to say no to people is like a grown-up thing. When Donald Trump says, I want to do this, that, and the other thing, and we know it violates laws and it's not constitutional, or it will harm, this is not a benefit to Intel. It will harm Intel. It will harm the economy. It will harm the universities. It will harm the law firms. We've read this in history before. You just have to say no. It's a deal with the devil that will harm you. And it's a fake deal because Trump will always change the term. So say no. And Trump creates a magical make-believe dystopian world, and others just embrace it like this is the world that exists when it doesn't. And when it's viewed by media as just a legitimate side of a two-side debate, when it is a just complete farcical, bizarre, dementia-laden world, it becomes a problem. Like his cabinet meeting today, where he says that he sees all of these black women, he says, an army of black women wearing their red hats, professing their love for Trump. And these black women say, please, please, Donald, come into my city. That's what all the black women are saying to Donald, apparently. Here, play this clip.
You have a force of black women. They're like only Trump. They want Trump to come in. And you see them. They're all over the place in Chicago.
That's it, a force. Then
Can you please tell me who he was talking to that says that they saw them? And I would like to see who these people are. I really would. You know what he's talking about? He's talking about two women, one who unfortunately passed away, Diamond and Silk, that wore the MAGA hat. You have a couple of individuals from the black evangelical.
The same woman who shows up at the Chick-fil-A. She goes to all the events.
Yes. She's figured out a way how to monetize it. And so she's willing to wear that MAGA hat in exchange for filling her pocket up with cash.
Or what? I mean, I don't know what she does or doesn't do. It certainly has become a lifestyle in a world. I don't know what she does. I haven't looked into her background, so I don't know one way or another. But she seems to go to all of the various events.
I was talking about Diamond and Silk.
Oh, Diamond and Silk made that. Certainly, the podcast was built on it. And then what was it? Which was it? Diamond or Silk who died of what? COVID?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So then you have Donald Trump saying the following about. I'll show you these two clips about Gavin Newsom. First, he calls Gavin Newsom. He says Gavin Newsom has something wrong with his hands. Play this clip. Here, play it.
Can't handle it. You have an incompetent governor there. You have an incompetent governor in California. Gavin, I know him very well. He's incompetent. He's a nice guy, looks good. Hi, everybody. How you doing? He's got some strange hand action going. I don't know what the hell his problem is. It's a little weird. to be honest. There's a little something shaky going on there. But, you know.
So here's Trump's
projection.
hand.
Is it not projection?
So here's Trump's hand, though, as well. Let me show you. Just pull up the photo, Jeremy, of Trump's hand. I mean, literally, his hands are rotting right now, and Trump does the weird hand stuff, but clearly Gavin Newsom's looks bother Donald Trump. And then Trump said that this is one of the most absurd lies that he says, where he personally released hundreds of millions of gallons of water to stop the fires. This is what in Southern California in January. Here's what Trump says about that. Let's play it.
But I think that's actually just an excuse. I actually think these people are sick. There's something wrong. So we send hundreds of millions of gallons of water a day into the Pacific Ocean. They turn a valve, and the valve heads out, and we turn the valve back. I actually had to do it using force. We turned the valve back, and now they have water, but not as much as they should have, because they should. And I'm telling Gavin Newsom by this conversation right now, turn the rest of the water on. Turn it on.
And here's one of those things.
Can I ask you this question?
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? To our brigaders, we all have sinks, right? And you could turn it on with a slow drip, or you could turn it all the way to the left and open up the valve completely. Is that what he's talking about? Does he think that there's some sort of a spigot that sits under Gavin Newsom's desk, or maybe in his bathroom with a bunch of documents or something like that, that you can decide whether you're going to open it? There you go. That's what I was looking for. My only question, Ben, is how the hell did they get there to turn that thing on? That's that seems like a little dangerous to me. They should. I mean, I wasn't aware that the spigot was that big. But Gavin, just turn the spigot on, please. This is the dumbest argument that I think I have heard yet. And there's quite a few really ridiculous arguments, to the point that they are releasing water back into the Pacific Ocean. Who's feeding him this inaccurate information? Who is the one in that group? Because I would actually call the president and say, this person's got to go. I mean, you're making statements that are so illogical, that are so inaccurate, that it makes you look ridiculous. It makes you look like uneducated.
It goes back to what we were saying at the beginning also, though, is that where I feel sometimes like I'm trapped in that zombie movie, whether it's the Brad Pitt one or the Will Smith one, or whatever they are, and I'm looking around and I'm saying, this is very not normal, right? And I'm looking for anybody else saying this is crazy, because this is 25th Amendment stuff. And I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. Donald Trump's fascist stuff is impeachment stuff. This cognitive stuff is 25th Amendment. I mean, again, what are you talking about with a valve? What Donald Trump did, and again, just think about it. This stuff like this happens every day. He said after the fires in January in Southern California were 100% contained, 100% contained, didn't pose a threat anymore. Donald Trump sends the Army Corps of Engineers to central Northern California, where there are reservoirs which hold water for dry summers, and they're full. They're not, California is a big state, right? California can fit multiple states inside California because it's huge. So central to Northern California is nowhere near Southern California. It would be like the difference from, say, New York to Washington, D.C., or New York to Maryland, okay, is just an example. So after the fires are fully contained, Trump has the Army Corps of Engineers release 2 billion gallons of water from the reservoirs onto the farmland areas in January, February time period that was needed for the summer, harming the farmers there, so he can say that he turned on an imaginary valve. I just want you to think about that's what he did. And that's what he keeps on talking about. And you stole the water And by the way, Central California is the only kind of Trumpy area in California as well. So you took that water. Okay, let me show you this next clip here, Cohen. Donald Trump then says, being called a dictator is actually a good thing, he says, because if it stops crime, maybe he is a dictator. This is what he's saying it out loud. Here, let's play it.
Terms, and will be the big subject of the next election. Think of it. They are, instead of saying, Trump's right about crime, it's really bad in Chicago. You have a guy in Illinois, the governor of Illinois, saying that crime has been much better in Chicago recently, and Trump is a dictator. And most people say, if you call him a dictator, that if he stops crime, he can be whatever he wants. I'm not a dictator, by the way, but he can be whatever he wants.
People aren't saying that he can be whatever he wants, but here he says, I have the right to do anything I want to do. As the president, I have the right to do whatever. Here, let's play. If we've got it. If not, we could play the clip about Zelensky. It's the next in order, Jeremy, as well. So if you've got that one, if you've got the Zelensky one.
So I would have much more respect for Pritzker if he'd call me up and say, I have a problem. Can you help me fix it? I would be so happy to do it. I don't love, not that I have the right to do anything I want to do. I'm the president of the United States. If I think our country's in danger, and it is in danger in these cities, I can do it. No problem going in and solving, his difficulties. But it would be nice if they'd call and they'd say, would you do it?
And I just want to touch on something that you brought up, which is, is he allowed to do it? I hate to say it because of the Supreme Court of the United States, because of that decision. What he's saying is not inaccurate. In fact, here's what he does, and he does so well, despite the fact that the information that he's putting out there is wrong. I actually wrote about it, Ben, in my Substack. What do you call it? I called it Action Resonates While Statistics Alienate. And I write in, I want you to hear what I'm saying, Brigaders. Politics is not a contest of facts. It's a contest of feelings. And right now, President Trump is winning because he understands something that, for whatever reason, we Democrats refuse to accept, that people don't want statistics. They want safety. They don't want a lecture about percentages. They want to know that their kids can walk to school without fear. And while Democrats are obsessing over charts and crime data, Trump is painting, while inaccurate, he's painting a visceral picture of danger and promising that he and he alone can fix it. And the brutal truth is, it works. And that's what he's taking advantage of. He's taking advantage of the fact that he's painting a picture. Don't tell me that Chicago doesn't have crime, that New York doesn't have crime, that DC doesn't have crime, or Palm Beach, or any of these ruby red states. They all do. But what he's doing is he's over-exaggerating it. Now, mind you, in just the last 2 months, while I'm at the pharmacy picking up my medication, no bullshit, 3 times I watched different people come in there and start stealing shit from it. So now what does Trump do? He blows it out of proportion. Now, we've all seen it. We've all seen videos of smash and grabs. We all know, and we've all seen or read where you have these kids on scooters that are, grabbing women's pocketbooks or people's watches. So Trump is now turning around and over-exaggerating it and saying that this is a massive, massive issue that needs to stop, and it needs to stop now. Now, there's not one of us that will turn around and disagree that this crime is no good. Shoplifting or smash and grabs or what have you. None of us will say that it's not good, but he is feeding fear. He's feeding terror that doesn't exist. And instead, what does he say? Well, right now, we've had 2 weeks where there's no crime. By the way, we don't know that there's no murders taking place in D.C. First and foremost, we don't know that to be true. We don't know that to be true because he's controlling all the narrative and all of the information. But he's going to go one step even further. anybody that is convicted right now of committing a murder in the District of Columbia will be executed. You think he's taking it a little bit too far? There's no due process. There's no issue about whether or not the District of Columbia even has a death penalty. He is going to impose one with what? A Sharpie and an executive order. And this is where the danger comes in. And this is why, as Ben and I say all the time, help Midas Touch Network, help Michael Cohen, help Ben Meiselas and Brett Meiselas and Jordy Meiselas. Help us to grow this community. If 2026, and mark my words on, I've been right way too many times for you to ignore this. If 2026 doesn't go the way that we want, if we don't take back either the House, the Senate, or both, the democracy that you woke up to yesterday is going to look very different than the democracy you're going to wake up to tomorrow. And that's the danger. And what are we doing here? We're trying to develop the community to ensure that our tripartite system of government does not dissipate to these cowards like this Missouri representative who got booed off the stage, that was sitting there and had an elder gentleman, a farmer, turn around and say to him, "Take your head out of Trump's ass." That's what they have to do. If you are going to just simply roll over to get your belly rubbed by the president, we don't want you. And they should be voting him out, which would basically nullify this entire Texas gerrymandering nonsense.
Yeah.
People would open up their eyes. We wouldn't have to worry about it at all.
Well, and that's why we need leadership that is fearless, that is strong, that is speaking to the people every damn day. Yeah. That's what is needed right now. And we need leaders to lead. You know, the example I was giving about the union leader of the Teamsters, Sean O'Brien, what bothers me about him, a lot of aspects, but the fact that Donald Trump hates unions. Every one of Donald Trump's policy is anti-worker. Trump wants to destroy unions. And here you have a union leader who can't say that. He'll say instead, well, you know, I think a lot of the union members may be Trump supporters. That may or may not be the case. But if you are a leader, what you need to do, the same way if you're the head of Intel, if you're a governor, whatever, as a leader, you need, because Trump is leading as a dictator with falsehoods every day. And he is spreading them every day, a deluge of them. So if you are a leader and you want to protect others other than yourself, you have to say, hey, you may like this guy, but he's going to destroy your life. And then they may go, oh, well, we don't like you. We're going to vote you out. So be it. Then lose your position. Then don't be the governor. Then don't be the union leader. Then don't be the CEO. Yes, it's a tough position, but there's so many people who care so much about their comfort over the other people's lives, and even they have such a short-term view of their own comfort that it's coming for you.
What about the comfort of your children? What about the comfort of your grandchildren or future generations? What about your neighbors, your friends' children, and so on? You're willing to walk away from that for $1? Seriously?
Yeah, so you can go back to the country club for an extra, for an extra year or two, so you can go golfing. What are you really doing here? One point to mention as well. So DC just had a murder take place in the past 24 hours. So again, being fact-based, I think this was a 9 to 11 day streak of no murders. The longest streak thus far this year was before the National Guard, about 16 days or so. There have been numerous weeks, about 4 to 5 times this year, where you had full weeks of no murders, not because of National Guard. Crime is at a 30-year low there. But to your point, Cohen, is crime a problem in DC? Yes. Crime is a problem in cities. It exists.
By the way, crime is a problem in rural areas too.
Absolutely. So the question is, what do we do as a society? Does the National Guard now patrol the entire country? How does that work? Do you not become a free society? One of the things that the Trump regime is doing right now is they are defunding all of these grants that were given to cities to help develop parks and green spaces and all of these things, education. And when you do that, you create conditions for crime to fester as well. So there's a reason why during Trump's first term, you actually had homicides hitting record highs. Republican states, because of their policies, actually cause more crime than in blue states. We'll talk more when we come back from our first break, because you and I still haven't talked about that meeting, Cohen, or that Oval Office presser that Trump had on Friday, where he held up that photo of himself and Putin and said how much excited he is that Putin may visit the U.S. for the World Cup. And
how good he looked in the picture.
That was the whole thing was,
listen,
again, as I said.
You got to talk about the important things, Ben. How good he actually looked good in the picture. All right.
Let's take our first and only break of the show. A reminder, subscribe to the Mea Culpa audio podcast. Cohen's had some great guests on. Check it out. Subscribe to Michael Cohen's YouTube channel, The Michael Cohen Show. Check that out. And subscribe to this YouTube channel. Subscribe to Cohen's Substack. And subscribe to the Midas Touch Substack. One quick break, 2-finger salute, home stretch. Here we go.
Look, I don't drink often. Mostly because I like to remember what I said and more what I did. But when I do want to unwind, I'm not trying to wake up feeling like a guy who got hit by a truck, or worse, like I actually agreed to something important. And that's why I've been taking Sol's out-of-office gummies. They give me that relaxed, happy buzz, kind of like a night out minus the hangover, sugar, or the questionable decisions I regret on Instagram. Sol's made from organic, U.S.-grown hemp, vegan, gluten-free, and low in sugar. And you could dial in your dose, whether you want a little kick or to pretend you're sophisticated enough to microdose. And if gummies aren't your vibe, they've got this out-of-office drink, alcohol-free and perfect for those nights when you want to chill without waking up asking, why did I text my ex? I mean, Sol's the kind of easy wellness I can get behind. Because honestly, life's complicated enough without adding a hangover. So my friends, go right now. And my audience, you will get 30% off the whole order. Go to getsol.com and use code BEAT, B-E-A-T. That's getsol, G-E-T-S-O-U-L.com, promo code BEAT for your 30% off. I mean, try it. Your brain, I guess in your phone's sent folder, will thank you. I got to tell you about my neighbor's cat. You know, the one I always talk about, Marlowe. I mean, this guy is a total character. Last week, I watched him sniff around my kitchen like an inspector, judging everything. I mean, I swear, if he could talk, he'd be reviewing restaurants on Yelp. And you know what? I realized something. Marlowe deserves the best. And that's where Smalls comes in. Even though I don't feed him, I know he'd go crazy for it. Because Smalls is real protein-packed, preservative-free food that cats actually love. I mean, imagine Marlowe doing a taste test. 2 bowls side by side. One with mystery kibble, one with Smalls. Guaranteed, he wouldn't even glance at the kibble. Go straight for Smalls. Nose twitching, tail flicking, the full Marlowe seal of approval. So know this, that Smalls started in 2017. 2 people cooking in small batches for friends' cats, and now they've served millions of meals. Fresh, healthy recipes that give cats shinier fur, more energy, fewer hairballs, and a litter box that doesn't make you question life choices. And if your cat doesn't love it, Smalls will refund you. No risk, no questions. So here's the deal. For a limited time, because you're a Political Beatdown listener, you're going to get 60% off your first order plus free shipping. So go right now to smalls.com/beat. That's Smalls, SMALLS.com/beat for 60% off plus free shipping. Treat your cat, or just imagine Marlowe enjoying every bite. It's worth it.
Welcome back to Political Beatdown. Ben Meiselas, Michael Cohen here. Cohen, let me just show you this photo right here. And again, Like this to me, you know, when Donald Trump talks about, you know, they went after me for Russia, 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 and I found burn bags and they set me up. And how dare they say that I have this relationship with Putin and that I was colluding with Putin, like Obama, Hillary Clinton, wah, 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 whoever. I mean, pull up this photo, Jeremy, from the Oval Office on Friday. Okay. Now, I just think there are so many things happening before us in plain view, Michael Cohen, that because it happens like this, like if you told me that, Ben, what's Russia, Russia, Russia? And I said this, I said, here's what we know about Russia, Russia, Russia. Okay. Donald Trump is taking secret photos with Vladimir Putin. And then he's in his Oval Office with his staff. And he's showing them photos that Putin sent him of them together. And Trump's saying, and we've got it, it's all secret. And Trump's saying, look how great Vlad looks. Look how great I look. We're going to do great trade together. And, you know, Zelensky's not really innocent. And I think that we can make great deals with Russia. And I can't wait till he comes here for the FIFA World Cup. And it's just going to be really, really, really incredible. We talked all about it. You know, you would say to me, wait, Donald Trump speaking with a genocidal dictator who put bounties on the heads of Americans, and he's doing that? Oh my God, what a scandal. I mean, that's impeachable. Come on, that couldn't have happened. He did it in public. So use that as an example. Cohen, if I told you that buried in the Epstein files, Donald Trump's had a plan. And if you look in the Epstein files, buried in page 100,033, there's a footnote in an email that references Donald Trump's plan. And he goes, I'm going to give Ghislaine immunity. I'm going to help her out no matter what happens. I may dangle a pardon in front of her, and I'm going to have her meet with my criminal defense attorney. I'm going to have her say super nice things about me and say Epstein did nothing wrong and that she saw nothing wrong. And then we're going to do that. Then I'm going to move her to a minimum security facility where sex traffickers are not allowed to be at. And then I'm going to kick out the people in the minimum security facility who actually belong there, who criticize Ghislaine. And I'm going to ignore the victims. I'm going to call all the victims of Epstein Democratic operatives, and I'm going to smear them. And I'm not going to allow my DOJ to speak to them. That's my plan. So if you told me that that's in the files, you would say, oh my God, home run, grand slam, what a sicko. But see, Cohen, these things are happening in plain view. Now, what if I told you also, I found an email that Donald Trump was saying that he may appoint to lead the children's youth athletics initiative that he wants to launch to supervise health and fitness for young girls, that Trump wants to appoint somebody who was found liable of sexually assaulting a 16-year-old child. He wants to make this person the head of it. What do that's pretty, no way he's going to, no, Trump appointed Lawrence Taylor, who was convicted of sexually assaulting a 16-year-old.
He probably then should have just turned around and appointed as his assistant coach, for Jim Jordan. I mean, under those circumstances, I mean,
and then Jim Jordan says, this is literally Jim Jordan goes, Ghislaine Maxwell has exonerated Trump. I played clips on other shows about that.
I saw that.
Ghislaine's exonerated Donald Trump. Well, based on that logic, Ghislaine said that she never observed anything with Epstein. She said that the thing with Epstein was that he hung around. This is what she knew. He hung around young women because he liked to listen to the music that the kids were listening to. That was her direct language right there. So if she's saying that she didn't see Epstein, and she says that she did nothing wrong in this interview when she was convicted in a trial of child sex trafficking, explain to me the logic of MAGA saying then she exonerates Donald Trump.
Because all they're doing is parroting what they're hearing and expected to continue to do it. That's part of the brilliance, all right, of this MAGA movement, What they do is they spread a lie, and like Stalin used to do, the more you repeat the lie, the more the lie becomes the truth. Now, let me be very clear to those of you that are with us and those of you that will be watching this down the road. There is only one way for us to know the truth. You can all have your theories. You could, whether they're conspiracy theories or you think they're predicated on facts. Nobody knows. But you know where the information is? It's inside those files. So if they put out those files unredacted so that we can actually read them, so that we can actually know the truth instead of the innuendo and the hypothetical. Yeah, I know there were certain things that took place. Yeah, Donald Trump's name is on the flight register. So what? So what? Did the flights go to his island or did they go to Palm Beach? You don't know that. I don't know that. And I don't want to guess anymore. I just want the facts out there. I want the whole freaking file released so that Congress gets it, which they're entitled to. The American people get it. MAGA gets it. The first time I really want MAGA to get something that they want, I want them to get the file unredacted except for the names of the victims. So we could put an end to all of the speculation, all of the conversation, all of the lies. Because these victims deserve to be heard. They deserve to see accountability. And the victimizers deserve to be held accountable. Plain and simple.
Well, it's the undisputed fact right now, undisputed though, that Donald Trump is in the files. We know that's a fact, right? Fact. He's in the files, right? Yes.
In what capacity is the part that you don't know?
Well, but let's do this in the legal way, right? Is he in the files, right? Yes.
Yes.
If that proved that he was innocent and that he looked great in the files, would you think that he would want to release them? If it made him look good?
What you're saying makes perfect sense, except if releasing part of that file maybe harms somebody that is important or close to him. Again, this is pure speculation. It's pure hypothetical. I don't know. And that's why, Ben, as much as I love playing this game and as much as people enjoy creating these conspiracy theories or these theories of what's in that file, I hate it. I want the file. And by the way, you know me well enough to know if that file came out and it's 1,000 pages long, I'm staying up all night long and I'm reading it. And I'm going to print it out and I'm going to take a highlighter to the important parts so that we, you and me, Ben, can speak to our brigaders and give you the facts that are relevant to the information that we all want to know. That's what I want.
Well, it's hundreds of thousands of pages. We know that. We know Trump's name is all over them. I feel very strongly that if it made Donald Trump look good or it exonerated him personally, he would find a way to release those portions. And then I also know that based on what's been released already, what we know is out there. When undisputed fact, Donald Trump says Epstein is a great guy who likes beautiful women on the younger side. Undisputed fact, Donald Trump said that he would go backstage at his beauty pageants and inspect the people naked. Now, he doesn't say the age of those people, but we know his beauty pageants had people as young as 14, as old as 28. But he said that he would inspect them naked because when you're the head, you get to do it. Undisputed fact. Undisputed fact, Donald Trump and Epstein would throw events together at Mar-a-Lago where they would bring girls, we're not sure what the ages are, from the beauty pageants, saying that there would be VIP model scouts there, but it would just be Trump and Epstein. Now, they can argue that they were playing hopscotch together, or maybe they were playing music together, or they were having swimming competitions with the 30-plus girls of undisclosed ages there when it was just Trump and Epstein during the years Epstein sex trafficked. But I tend to believe strongly that I'm not so naive to believe that's what was happening. And I think we know if reasonable minds can believe what was happening there. We know, undisputed fact, that Mar-a-Lago was the grounds, if you listen to what Trump says, girls being stolen where Virginia Giuffre, an underage girl, was working at the spa, to which Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein found her there working at the spa and then put her into a sex trafficking ring. She was hired at Mar-a-Lago. We know that there's a 14-year-old girl, Jane Doe. This is from Ghislaine's trial. That this was a witness at Ghislaine's trial who shows up at Mar-a-Lago with Epstein and Ghislaine, and the testimony was, they brought us to Mar-a-Lago. Epstein showed me off to Donald Trump and said, words to the effect of, what do you think about this one? Or do you like this one? Or what do you think about her? Or words to that effect. And that was it. There's nothing further to suggest more, but I'm just the testimony was basically along those lines. We know that Epstein's girlfriend had testified that Epstein brought her to see Donald Trump in an apartment, and Donald Trump kind of grabbed her inappropriately, fondled her inappropriately. So there are data points like that. And,
right.
When with those data points out there, Trump was Doe 174 in a civil case. Trump's labor secretary was the United States attorney who did the non-prosecution agreement with Epstein. So if I gave you all of those facts, plus Trump said that he would release the files, Bondi said she would release the files, and then they're not, that's problematic. That's interesting.
By the way, 100% you're right. It's problematic. And it's why I constantly say over and over and over again, enough with the speculation, release the freaking files. In that way, you and I aren't talking about circumstantial evidence, which, by the way, as a lawyer, you laid it out perfectly. You turn around, you took facts, not made up stuff, facts, things that whether Trump said it or somebody else said it, you took the facts, you laid it out in a very cogent manner, item by item by item, in order to achieve a certain determination at the end. And by the way, many cases are won and lost using that specific right. I turn around and say, those cases that do that are generally not cases that have files with million documents in it that will tell us exactly what we want to know. And that's why I blame Congress now, including, most importantly, Republican members of Congress. You say you want it, fucking do something about it. Turn around and demand that it goes to the vote on the floor, which is what we're expecting to see on September 2nd. But my suspicion is that they've already been contacted by the powers that be, whether it's DOJ or maybe Todd Blanche or somebody else, and been told, I wouldn't even try that shit, because if you do, we're going to primary somebody against you, yada, yada, yada. So they're willing to keep their power at the expense of the release of this information. Yeah. Shame on all of them. And you know what? Just release the file. Let me just leave it at that.
Yeah, look, September 3rd, Midas Touch Network will be streaming the press conference with Congressmember Ro Khanna and Congressmember Thomas Massie and the victims. So
by the way, I'm sorry, Ben, I'm so sorry, because one of our brigaders, and there's a couple of us saying, Ben, did I deny that Donald Trump's name is in that file? Or did I not just say, brigaders, did I not just say, yes, his name is in the file? We just don't know in what capacity. Am I not making myself crystal clear?
No, where I think though that the point that I was making by listing all of those things is that the capacity with which he was in contact with Epstein is not a mere passing reference of, look, if Epstein donated $100 million to Harvard, could there be the name of a professor who gets an endowment as a result of the money? To me, that's a little bit different than, did that professor get massages at Epstein Island, or did that professor hang out with Epstein and young girls, or did that professor say Epstein is a fantastic guy who likes him young? So I think the issue is that based on all we know of the Trump-Epstein relationship, it not just raises problems, it raises red flag after red flag after red flag. Then when you just take Donald Trump's own actions, he's been found liable for sexual assault in a civil federal case. He's been found liable. He's on audio saying that because you're rich, you can grab women by their genitals and get away with it. He's on audio talking about a very young Lindsay Lohan, who may have just turned 18, saying that because she was having mental issues, that made him want to have sex with her because the ones who have mental health issues are the ones that are best in bed. Why is that? Is what he says. Why is that always the case? You have him saying that this is how men talk in front of college kids at the Young Republicans Club. Trump says that's locker room talk, and it's very courageous to say these things about women and then call it locker room talk. So it goes back, Cohen, I think, though, to what I said, which is you take all of that, then you take what you and I would call in the legal profession either spoliation of documents, which adverse infer. So if someone in a discovery context in litigation has custody and control over documents and either tampers with it or refuses to produce it, what a judge will do is do what's called give an adverse inference instruction to say, look, jury, because they're not turning it over, you may now adversely infer whatever is in there is going to be bad. So I think the comments, in general are like, at what point should we as a society give the adverse inference that you're hiding based on all these other factors?
Right. I'm 100% with you, but at the same point in time, all I can keep doing, because September 3rd has not come yet, keep putting pressure on our representatives to demand the release. Congress has that right. And let's just keep putting as much pressure as we can. Call your representative. You are Republican. If you're Democrat and you live in a Republican state, you call up the representative from your district and you say, all right, shithead, it's your obligation to demand, to vote alongside those Democrats that are demanding the release of the file. Plain and simple. Let's flood their phones with calls demanding that they vote in the affirmative for the release of the files.
Well, what we're going to do on the Midas Touch Network is we're going to share that stream of the victims. We're going to be working with the House in an informal capacity. I mean, we're going to be streaming it. Others can stream it too, but we will be making sure that our stream is the most widely watched stream to get the voice of the victims out. Cohen, two-finger salute. Who does it go to?
It goes to Howard Nutlick for being a complete and total asshole. Listen, I know Nutlick for over 25 years. I know him longer than I know Donald. And what he is doing right now, this ass kissing, instead of turning around like I would do and say to the president, you can't do that. All right. It doesn't make any sense. 11 billion here. By the way, what's $11 billion when you have a $27.5 trillion budget? It's like a pimple on the ass of a rhinoceros, all right, or a hippopotamus. It's stupid. It's just plain stupid. And it just reeks. It reeks of authoritarianism, which everybody's calling him a dictator. He thinks it's funny. I don't think it's funny. I don't think our democratic republic is a joke. Plain and simple. Howard, my old friend, fuck you, dude.
So think about it like this, and let's just all use the logic here. You mentioned $11 billion, right, of America now taking over Intel and probably going to cause significant economic harm that will ripple and harm our economy by multiples of that 11 billion. But think about the budget for ICE. What, close to $200 billion, more than mostly every military across the world. And if you think about it, what they're doing is they're taking kind of untrained people without kind of the requisite background and skills. they're offering them $50,000 signing bonuses and basically payment of $150,000 a year to become stormtroopers, right? To become the Gestapo and to disappear non-criminal, mostly non-criminal migrants who are working and contributing to the economy. So if you just wanted, I like to take a moral view of these things and say this is grotesque from a moral perspective. But if you wanted to even look at it from an economic perspective, just think about it this way. So we're getting rid of migrants who are working on, by the way, who deserve a pathway to citizenship and deserve transparency.
We're doing jobs that no American wants to do.
Who are working in restaurants and farms, that were doing important jobs. And there should be comprehensive immigration reform to keep a very strong border and to also give people pathways to citizenship who are here paying taxes and doing the right thing. But you're getting rid of them. You are giving hundreds of billions of dollars to ICE to break the law, which then has legal fees associated with that. That could be in the trillions of dollars. You're then allowing, as Trump said he would allow because of his friendship with Xi Jinping, 600,000 students from China who we know when they're here, by and large, are going to go back to China with that knowledge and not stay here. That's the 5-10 year plan of China. So you're replacing an American workforce and migrant workforce working in America with mostly Chinese students, more than the deportations, who will then go back to China, spending $200 billion on ICE, taking shares of private companies. When I just did that analysis, both on a moral level and an economic level, how do you call yourself a conservative and go along with what Donald Trump's doing? You're not. I mean, you're just a dictator fanboy or fangirl or whatever at this point, and just admit that's what you've always wanted. You were never about states' rights. You were never about limited government. You were never about, the private sector does it right. You were never about strict textualism in the Constitution. What you were about is you thought that the Confederates shouldn't have lost the Civil War, and you don't like a democracy as well, one of those, and you want a strong man fascist dictator who goes along and says they alone can fix it, who behaves the way Kim Jong-un and Putin and Orban behave. Like, that's what you want. So rather than gaslight me and say, oh, I like democracy, no, just say you like those things, and then we could have a debate. And you could, but don't tell me you're conservative. Don't tell me you're limited government. Don't go give me that shit. Give me the real, and then we'll have a real discussion. And I'll leave it at that. But to me, what I just did, what we've done here, Cohen's show, what we're talking about shouldn't be all that political. This should just be kind of common sense.
By the way, we should have been finished with this show a half hour ago if they would just release the fucking files.
All right. Make sure you subscribe to the Mea Culpa audio podcast. Make sure you subscribe to Michael Cohen's YouTube channel, The Michael Cohen Show. Subscribe to his Substack, The Michael Cohen Substack, the Midas Touch Substack. Yes. Subscribe there as well. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We appreciate you. We're grateful for you, Beatdown Brigaders. And we will be back, of course, on Thursday. Keep checking the Midas Touch feed every 90 minutes for new videos. And we also covered that disastrous cabinet meeting. That's loaded. So check that out when that's done. Thanks, Cohen. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time on Political Beatdown. Keep fighting.
Boom.